people have lost they have lost the ability to do is to say no without consequences. That's it. What else have they lost? Donald Sterling said made $2 billion saying.
Well,
Joe Rogan said he made 150.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making. We're here to...
Something just broke, and it's shaking Hollywood at its core. Because what started as a quiet moment, an awkward pause on stage, a strange silence after applause, has now spiraled into a full-blown controversy that nobody can ignore anymore. And the man who just lit the match? D.L. Hughley. He didn't just speak, he called it out, directly, relentlessly. And what he's saying about Michael B. Jordan, the Oscars, and what really happens behind closed doors, it's got people furious, divided, and asking questions they were never supposed to ask out loud. Because this isn't just about an award anymore. This is about power, control, and what some are now calling an unspoken system that decides who gets elevated, and at what cost. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because according to what's being exposed, that viral moment, yes, at that moment everyone brushed off, wasn't just an accident, it wasn't just bad timing. Some are now saying it was allowed, left in, unedited, seen by millions. And the question nobody can shake is simple. Why? Why would something that explosive, that uncomfortable, be broadcast to the world, especially when there was time to cut it out? And why did Michael B. Jordan stay silent afterward? No statement, no reaction, no acknowledgement, just silence. But that silence, it's exactly what D.L. Hughley is calling out. He's not attacking the man, he's questioning the machine. And once he started connecting the dots, bringing up past winners, controversial moments, and what people had to go through to get that gold statue, everything changed. Because now, this isn't just about one actor. It's about a pattern, a cycle, and a truth that might have been hiding in plain sight the entire time. And trust me, what's about to come out next is going to make that stage moment look like nothing. The moment D.L. Hughley said it out loud, everything shifted. Not gradually, not quietly, instantly. Because he didn't just hint at something being off. He tore straight into it. He questioned the system, the optics, the timing, and most importantly, the silence. And the internet. It froze for half a second, then exploded. Because suddenly, people weren't just replaying that awkward awards show moment involving Michael B. Jordan. They were dissecting it, frame by frame, second by second, looking for something deeper, something intentional, something they might have missed. And the more they looked, the stranger it felt. Because what originally seemed like an unfortunate interruption now looked like something else entirely. The timing, the delay in broadcast, the decision to leave it in. And then, nothing. No official apology, no immediate damage control, no visible acknowledgement behind the scenes, just silence. And that silence, it became the loudest part of the story. Because according to insiders, that moment wasn't just uncomfortable on screen, it was explosive backstage. Multiple sources began whispering about what allegedly happened once the cameras cut. Raised voices, tension in the corridors, a closed-door conversation that was never meant to leak. And then, the first insider message surfaced. Anonymous, unverified, but detailed enough to make people pause. It claimed that immediately after the incident, there was confusion among producers. Not about what happened, but about what to do with it. Cut it, edit it, or leave it in. And according to that message, someone made a decision, a deliberate one, to let it ride. That phrase alone, it sent chills through social media, because now people weren't asking if it could have been edited. They were asking why it wasn't. And suddenly, the narrative shifted from accident to choice. Meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan remained completely silent. No tweets, no interviews, no reaction. And at first, fans defended it. They said he was being professional, taking the high road, not feeding into negativity. But as more details started surfacing, that silence began to feel different, heavier, almost strategic. And that's when DL Hughley stepped in again. This time sharper, more direct. He didn't accuse, he questioned. Why do these moments always happen, right before recognition? That line, it hit like a bomb, because suddenly people started connecting dots they hadn't considered before. Moments of discomfort, public humiliation, followed by praise, awards, celebration, a pattern. And once you see a pattern, you can't unsee it. Social media turned into a battlefield. Some people dismissed it completely, called it reaching, conspiracy, overthinking. But others, they leaned in, hard. They started pulling up old clips, old award shows, moments that once felt isolated, now being viewed through a completely different lens. And the comparisons, they were uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because people began asking, why do certain narratives keep repeating? Why do certain moments feel staged? And why does silence always follow? Then came another twist. A leak, this time not video, not audio, a screenshot, allegedly from a private group chat involving event insiders. Blurry, partial, but readable enough to spark chaos. One message stood out. Just keep him calm. Big night coming. That line, it didn't prove anything, but it suggested something people couldn't ignore, because now the timeline felt too perfect, too aligned, too convenient. And just when that screenshot started going viral, another one dropped. This one more direct. Don't react. Let it pass. If real? It changed everything, because that wasn't advice, that was instruction. And now, people weren't just questioning the moment, they were questioning the response to it, or lack of one. Meanwhile, other celebrities started subtly reacting, not directly, not naming names, but posting cryptic messages, quotes about respect, about dignity, about knowing your worth. And fans? They read between every single line, because in Hollywood, silence is rarely neutral. It's strategic, calculated, and sometimes it's forced. And that's exactly what DL Hughley kept circling back to. The idea that success in certain spaces comes with unspoken rules. Rules nobody writes down, but everyone feels. Stay composed. Don't disrupt. Don't speak out. No matter what happens. And the more he talked, the more uncomfortable the conversation became. Because now it wasn't just about one actor or one moment. It was about what people might be expected to tolerate, to reach the top. And that idea, it didn't sit right with a lot of people, but it also explained a lot, too much. Then came the next leak, and this one, it was audio, short, but clear. A allegedly recorded backstage, voices overlapping, tension in the air. One voice, unidentified, saying, "Not now, this isn't the moment." And another voice responding, "It already happened." That exchange? It sent the internet into overdrive, because it suggested awareness. Not shock, not surprise. Awareness. Like people knew something had gone wrong, but were more focused on controlling the aftermath. And controlling the aftermath means controlling the narrative. And that's when everything escalated again. Because now, the question wasn't just about what happened on stage, it was about what happened after, behind closed doors, away from cameras, away from the public, and who decided what the world would see and what it wouldn't. Meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan finally made a move, but not the one people expected. No statement, no explanation, just an appearance, public, smiling, composed, like nothing had happened. And that moment, it split the internet in half. Some called it strength, others called it performance, because now every move felt analysed, every expression dissected, every silence questioned. And just when it felt like the story couldn't get more intense, a final detail surfaced. Quiet. Almost missed at first, but once people caught it, everything shifted again. Because according to multiple insiders, there's another recording, longer, clearer, and far more revealing than anything released so far. A recording that allegedly captures the full backstage conversation. Not fragments, not snippets. The entire exchange. And the person who has it hasn't released it yet, but they've made one thing very clear. When it drops, it won't just explain what happened, it will expose why it happened. And just before disappearing, that source posted 6 words. They don't want this getting out. And if that's true, then what we've seen so far might only be the surface. That 6-word warning didn't just linger, it multiplied. Because once, they don't want this getting out, hit the timeline, something shifted in the energy. People stopped debating, stopped arguing, and started watching, waiting, refreshing. Because now it wasn't about opinions anymore, it was about what was coming next. And then, just when things felt like they might calm down, another leak dropped. No intro, no context, just a file, an audio file, longer than the last one, cleaner, sharper, and the moment people pressed play, you could feel it. This wasn't background chatter. This was a conversation, focused, intentional, and dangerously revealing. The voices were clearer this time, still unnamed but more distinct. One voice, controlled, almost managerial, said, "We already knew this might happen." That line? It froze everything, because it didn't sound like surprise, it sounded like expectation. And expectation means preparation. Then another voice jumped in, lower, tense. Then why wasn't it cut? Silence. A few seconds. Heavy. Uncomfortable. And then the response, "Because it plays." That was it. 3 words. But those 3 words? They detonated the internet. Because now people weren't just questioning decisions. They were questioning motives. Because it plays doesn't mean mistake. It means value. It means someone believed that moment, uncomfortable, chaotic, controversial, had a purpose, a benefit, something worth keeping. And suddenly everything felt darker, because now the narrative wasn't about an incident, it was about exploitation, moments being used, people being positioned, reactions being controlled. And once that idea hit, there was no going back. Social media went into absolute meltdown. Hashtags started trending globally, clips from the awards resurfaced again, but this time with a completely different tone. Not awkward, not accidental, calculated. And people started noticing things they hadn't before. The camera angles, the delay in cutting away, the reactions from people in the audience, even the timing of applause. It all felt off, too slow, too intentional. Meanwhile, DL Hughley went live again. And this time, he didn't hold back at all. He leaned forward, looked straight into the camera, and said, "You'll keep thinking this is random, it's not." That line, it sent another shockwave through everything, because now the conversation wasn't just online speculation, it was being amplified, confirmed, at least emotionally, by someone with decades inside the industry, and then he said something that made everything even more intense. Every time somebody gets close to that stage, something happens first. That sentence, it stuck, because people immediately started connecting dots again. Old moments, old controversies, old headlines tied to big wins. And suddenly, a pattern didn't just feel possible, it felt real. Meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan was spotted again. Another public appearance. Another calm, composed demeanor. But this time, people weren't just watching him, they were studying him. His expressions, his body language, his interactions, looking for any sign that something was off, and some claimed they saw it. A hesitation, a slight pause before answering questions, a smile that didn't fully land. Was it real, or was it projection? Nobody could say for sure. But the perception? It was spreading fast. And in situations like this, perception becomes reality. Then came the next twist. And this one. Nobody expected. A screenshot, allegedly from an internal email thread tied to the event. Subject line, post-broadcast review. Harmless on the surface, but the content? Anything but. One line stood out immediately. Engagement spike confirms decision. That phrase? It flipped everything. Because now there was data, metrics, proof, at least implied that the moment had driven attention. And if it drove attention, then someone benefited. And if someone benefited, then the decision to leave it in didn't feel accidental anymore. It felt strategic. And the internet? It lost control again, because now the conversation wasn't just emotional, it was transactional. People started asking, was this about ratings? About virality? About turning an uncomfortable moment into a trending one? And if so, at whose expense? Meanwhile, more celebrities began reacting, again subtly. Tweets about being used, posts about knowing your value, stories about not everything is worth the spotlight. No names, no direct references, but the timing, too perfect. And fans noticed. They always do. Because silence in Hollywood isn't empty. It's coded. And right now, everything felt like a message. But just when it seemed like the story had reached its peak again. Another audio clip surfaced, short, but devastating. A voice, different this time, saying he handled it exactly how we needed. That sentence? It didn't just raise questions, it confirmed fears. Because now, it sounded like behavior was expected, like reactions were anticipated, like outcomes were planned. And suddenly the idea that this was all just coincidence felt impossible. Meanwhile, DL Hughley dropped one final statement before going quiet. They reward the silence, not the truth. And that line? It hit harder than anything else. Because it reframed everything, not just this moment, but every moment like it. Every time someone stayed quiet, every time something uncomfortable was brushed off, every time the show went on. Like nothing happened. And now the question wasn't just about what happened on that stage. It was about what happens after. Who gets rewarded? Who gets protected? Who gets forgotten? And why? Meanwhile, behind the scenes, according to insiders, things were getting tense. Because that final recording, the one everyone keeps whispering about, still hasn't dropped. But multiple sources now claim it exists, and not just exists, but contains everything. The full conversation, the decisions, the reasoning, names. And if that recording is real, it won't just suggest a system, it will expose it. And the person holding it isn't rushing, they're waiting, timing it. Because when it comes out, there won't be any controlling the narrative anymore, just truth, raw, unfiltered, and impossible to spin. And just before disappearing again, that same anonymous source posted one final message. Next one ends careers. The moment that message hit, next one ends careers, the entire atmosphere shifted from chaos to fear. Not speculation, not debate, fear. Because up until now, this story had been explosive, messy, unpredictable, but still contained within the realm of controversy. But ends careers? That's different. That means names. That means accountability. That means consequences that don't fade after a news cycle. And suddenly, people weren't just refreshing timelines out of curiosity. They were bracing themselves. Because everyone knew, if that final recording dropped, it wouldn't just shake the moment. It would shake the entire industry. Then it happened. No announcement, no warning. Just a link, buried at first, then found, then spread like wildfire, and within seconds, millions clicked. Because this wasn't a clip, this wasn't a snippet, this was the full recording, unedited, continuous. And what it revealed, it didn't just confirm suspicions, It dismantled illusions. The conversation started calmly, too calmly. Voices you couldn't immediately identify, but tones that felt authoritative, controlled, practiced. One voice began outlining what had happened on stage, not emotionally, not reactively, strategically, breaking it down like a sequence, a moment, a reaction, an outcome. And then came the line that froze everything. It created exactly what we needed. That sentence, it didn't just echo, it detonated, because it implied intent, purpose, design. This wasn't about damage control, this was about outcome. Then another voice added, and he stayed in position. That line, even heavier, because now it sounded like behavior wasn't just observed, it was expected, like there was a role to play, a response to maintain, a script, unwritten but understood. And suddenly the silence from Michael B. Jordan didn't feel like professionalism anymore. It felt like compliance, or at least, that's how the internet interpreted it. Within minutes, clips from the recording were everywhere. Looped, slowed down, analysed word by word, and people weren't just reacting anymore. They were unravelling. Because this wasn't just about one moment. This was about the possibility that moments are manufactured, that reactions are anticipated, that narratives are shaped before the public even sees them. And that idea, it hit deeper than anything else. Meanwhile, D.L. Hughley returned one last time. No theatrics, no build-up, just a direct statement. They told you without telling you. And that line, it cut through everything. Because now people weren't just looking at what was said. They were looking at what had been hidden, what had been implied, what had been accepted as normal, until now. Then came the backlash. Immediate, massive, unstoppable. Social media turned into a war zone. Fans defending, critics attacking, celebrities choosing sides, some openly, others through coded posts that said everything without saying anything. And at the center of it all, Michael B. Jordan. Because now the question wasn't just about what happened to him, it was about what role he played in what happened. And that question, it divided everything. Some people stood firm, said he handled it with grace, that he didn't owe anyone a reaction, that he navigated a difficult moment the best way he could. But others, they weren't convinced. They pointed to the recording, to the tone, to the language, and asked, if this was all expected, then what does that mean? And that question still doesn't have an answer. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, according to multiple insiders, panic, real panic. Emergency meetings, calls being made, statements being drafted, then scrapped. Because how do you respond to something like this? Deny it? Address it? Ignore it? Every option felt dangerous. Because once something like this is out, you can't put it back. You can't control it. You can only react. And reacting means acknowledging, and acknowledging means confirming. And that's the position everyone suddenly found themselves in. Trapped between silence and exposure. But just when it felt like the story had reached its absolute breaking point, one final twist emerged. And this one, nobody saw coming. Because while everyone was focused on the recording, on the voices, on the implications, someone noticed something else, something small, but significant. A timestamp, buried in the metadata of the file. And when people looked closer, it didn't match the timeline. It suggested the recording wasn't recent, not from that night, not from that moment, but from before the event, before the stage, before everything. And that detail, it changed everything. Because now, the question wasn't just about what happened, it was about when it was decided. And if it was decided before, then this wasn't reaction. This was preparation, and that realization, it sent a final shockwave through everything. Because now the narrative wasn't just being questioned, it was collapsing. And just when people thought there was nothing left to uncover, one final message appeared from the same anonymous source. No explanation, No context, just 7 words. This wasn't the only time it happened. And with that, the story didn't end. It expanded. Because now this wasn't about one event, one actor, one moment. This was about a system, a pattern, a possibility that what people see isn't always what actually happens. And that the biggest moments might be the most controlled ones of all. And if that's true, then this isn't just a scandal, it's a revelation. One that doesn't fade, one that doesn't resolve, one that keeps unfolding, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to hide. And right now, according to everything we've seen, we're nowhere near the end. If you're still here, then you already feel it. This isn't just another celebrity story you scroll past and forget. This is something bigger, because what we just uncovered doesn't feel finished. It feels like we've only scratched the surface of something that's been hidden for a long time. And that's exactly why you cannot look away right now. Because the next leak, the next recording, the next voice that decides to speak, it could flip everything all over again. So don't sit on the sidelines. Hit that like button right now, because every like pushes this conversation further into the spotlight. And trust me, there are people who would rather this whole thing disappear. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I need to know where you stand. Do you think this was all planned? Or are people connecting dots that were never meant to connect? And most importantly, subscribe, because the moment anything else drops, and it will, you do not want to be the last one finding out. Turn on notifications, stay locked in, and keep watching closely. Because this story, it's still unfolding in real time, and the next piece might be the one that changes everything.